Sounds good.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching today's session. My name is Shanika, and I'm your session coordinator for today. And we have Elena Ashford with us today to speak about her journey into the legal field and her career as an immigration lawyer at Siskine's law firm. I'm sure many of you will find this session with Elena to be incredibly insightful and interesting. Now I'll pass it on to Elena to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Ashford, and I'm an immigration law group lead at Siskins LLP in London, Ontario. Um, I practice exclusively in the area of immigration law, and I'm very excited to tell you today about my journey to where I am now in my career. It's definitely not a conventional route to where I am now. So I'm very excited to share just how I got to do what I'm doing at this point in life. Um, I started law school in Moscow, Russia, where I was born and raised when I was 17 years of age. So at that time, my parents guided me towards law school as a good choice of a career. And at first, I thought law degree is just a good education to have, to be able to do many jobs in life. And off I went. And as of after starting law school, I definitely realized that I'm actually very much liking what I'm studying, and I would love to be a lawyer. And I spent 5 years in Russia, going to school and becoming a specialist in international law. Meanwhile, when I was in my third year of school at the International University in Moscow, I got a scholarship to come to London, Ontario on exchange. So that's how it started for me. I simply came here on exchange to Western University, not thinking that I would ever move to Canada, and really enjoyed my experience of taking political science and history courses. I got that scholarship the next year as well, and again at that time as well, it was essentially, in my opinion at the time, I'm just going to have a great exchange experience which will help my career back home. I wanted to practice constitutional law at that point, and being in classes here at Western definitely changed my perspective of what I want to do further. Upon completion my law degree in Russia, I applied to come to Western for a master's program, and I got funding to do that from Western, and I started in 2008. I started master's program in history at Western. And that was challenging because at the time my English wasn't as good as it is now. So definitely some language struggles at that point. But I really loved it. I really loved my experience at Western University, London, Ontario, and just loved being in Canada. Immigration interest towards immigration law, I guess, came from personal experience. Being an international student and coming on my own to Canada was challenging, and I'm sure most international students figure that out quite quickly, that after they just come to study, there comes in play all this knowledge about immigration regulations, whether you want it or not, by virtue of having to know what permits you have to have, whether you can work while on a study permit. So I started my journey towards immigration law from personal experience of finding out what rights I have as a temporary resident of Canada, and specifically a student, right? So um, after completion of my master's program, I was eligible to apply for a 3-year work permit. And also then I, at that time, went to an immigration lawyer and found out information of if I choose to apply for residency, what steps do I have to take. And I realized that based on my master's program at the time, I was able to apply to a province of Ontario for provincial nomination and then become a resident in a quite timely manner. So within a few years of being in Canada, I ended up becoming a permanent resident, and realizing that I do love my life in Canada, and I really enjoy the university experience. And I definitely wanted to go to law school in Canada at the time. Again, still struggling a bit with language at that point, and looking for jobs as well, with a Russian law degree and a master's degree in history, which was tough. One of my friends, who was an immigration officer at the time, suggested that I would take an immigration consulting program in Toronto at Humber College, which I did. So I enrolled after completion of my master's into immigration consulting program, and the thinking behind that was that I either would be able to apply for a license as an immigration consultant upon completion of the program, or I would be able to work at the lawyer's office, and eventually the ultimate goal was still going to law school in Canada. So that's what I did. Essentially, I finished immigration consulting program over the course, I think, about a year and a half. And I found a job at the immigration lawyer's office here in London. Um, that was a challenging experience, right? Because one thing, you go to school and you learn um, the rules and the regulations, the law, the legislation application, but another thing is actually practice of law, even as a student, right? Or when you work for someone. So I decided that at that point that I didn't want to get my own immigration consulting license and practice on my own. I decided that I want to work with a lawyer and get experience first, in order to apply myself in the future and again go to law school. So I worked with an immigration lawyer for 2 years, and I've learned a lot within those 2 years. And I think the biggest eye opener was that the practice of law, a big part of it is client management, file management, and client management. So just getting to work with clients, realizing, how to deal with clients in stressful situations. That was a very valuable experience right off the get-go for me. Then I met a local criminal defense lawyer at some party. And he was a Crown attorney before he became practicing criminal law on his own. And he said, "Well, why don't you come to meet me at my office, and you can do some work for me, and you'll see if you like criminal law, criminal defense law." So I kept doing some work with other firms as well, some immigration work. So that was ongoing. I was pretty pretty sure already, in a sense, how to manage some files, and I worked always under the lawyer's license before becoming a lawyer. And Chris, the lawyer who I met the criminal defense lawyer who I met, ended up being my mentor throughout my career, which was a great experience to have a mentor. And my advice to anyone who considering going to law school is that the best thing you can do for yourself, build a relationship with someone in the field and start getting that mentorship. um, Chris and I worked on many cases while I was a student, even before going to law school, including many charter application cases. So I had learned at the time about myself that I love writing, and I spend a lot of time to be good at writing FACTA. So just learning how to do legal writing even before going to law school became an incredible asset for me. So I worked on many cases with Chris, and eventually um, I became a legal assistant at one of the local criminal defense offices as well. And all the lawyers I was meeting at the time were saying, "You got to go to law school." Now you have your master's, you have your Russian law degree, you have your consulting degree diploma, but you need to go to law school at this point. And it was a bit tough at that point to push myself to again continue going to school, because as I said, I started this journey when I was 17 years old. And at that point, we're talking when I'm 27, going to law school again. That was mentally tough, right? Because it's just I felt like I'm working, but I became this perpetual student. And but I applied to law school, and I didn't get into Western, but I got into Ottawa right away, and I was waitlisted at a few other universities. So I decided at the time that I'm going to go to Ottawa, and I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to go to Ottawa, but I need 1 year just before I go to school, just to take some time to myself, continue working, continue getting experience, and then mentally I'll be ready to be in school again. So I did end up committing, going to Ottawa, paying my deposit so they would keep my spot. And then I took a year off school and continued working. I also started volunteering very actively with the Cross Cultural Learner Center in London. It's a refugee settlement organization that provides settlement services to newcomers, not just refugees, but all newcomers. And that was an amazing experience too. I started building ties in the community and realized London, I do like being in London. London is, it's a small city compared to where I'm from, as I was born and raised downtown Moscow. But I started really liking the community feel, and realizing that many international students come directly to London and many of them stay. And it's nice to have those ties to your community. And so I volunteered, I worked, continued working with Chris, continued working with other offices, and then I went to law school. And Ottawa University, the experience was absolutely amazing for me. At that time, I thought I will definitely be a criminal defense lawyer. I caught the criminal defense bug. I worked on excessive force cases. I was assisting to exclude evidence and all these drug investigations. I thought that is very exciting. So I thought, this is the way for me. I wanted to be a criminal defense lawyer. So the first year was tough, as I had to take obviously the courses that are not elective. As we all probably know, the first year is you got to take all courses, including public law, property law, all that fun stuff. Didn't want to take any of that. And really struggled mentally with, again, going through school. And in the first year, and first year was stressful as I was still continuing doing work, still continuing going a lot from Ottawa back to London for meetings, and some work cases. So it was the first year was really tough. And then starting second year, I took all criminal law related courses. I was in small group law, in criminal law, small group in my first year in Ottawa. And actually, we still got a lot of criminal law components in the first year. Had a really great professor who was a crown attorney and did federal crown attorney work and then provincial crown attorney work, and that was really great experience. And then really, I did have a really great time in Ottawa. And in the second year, I've relaxed, just started really enjoying school, and realizing that that time also it will come to an end when I won't be a student anymore, finally. Um, the third year, I ended up coming back to Western on a letter of permission. So I was the only, I think, student in my year at Western who was there on a letter of permission. So I was still graduating from Ottawa ultimately, but I was spending my final year at Western. And that worked out great because I already had ties to London. I wanted to come back. In my second year of school, I started working with my mentor on a homicide case in London. And that was a lot of work, even the disclosure review alone. And I ended up realizing I want to come back to London. I want to work while I'm doing my third year. And I also was interested at Western Legal Clinic. So there is a legal clinic at Western called Community Legal Services. And I was interested in it too, because I knew as a student, I can take courses that I can do specifically criminal defense at that clinic. Wherein otherwise, I remember there was no such thing as you can only choose criminal law files. You would have to do both landlord and tenant board, criminal law, some additional stuff. So, and by that time, by my third year, I already took all criminal law related courses pretty much in Ottawa. So I wanted to come back to Western, and I did. And third year was really busy, working on the homicide case, working at the clinic for academic, as an academic part of it, work, not for pay, but as of through Western Law School program. And I really started enjoying the clinic. And ultimately, initially, again, the plan was to article with my mentor. And then at the clinic, they posted an articling position. I ended up applying and getting it. And my mentor said to me, I want you to do what you feel is right for you. And I ended up accepting the articling position with community legal services in London, and with also intention that they will allow me to do some work on the side and still continue on this 4-year homicide case at that point we didn't know it's going to be 4 years, but that's what it ended up being. And that's what I ended up being an articling student at the legal clinic without really planning for it. And that was incredible experience. And I really advise you guys, if anyone has an opportunity to take legal clinic courses wherever they are, do it. I mean, I've done my own trial as a third year student under supervision of my professor, but I've done my first trial and prepared for my own first criminal trial as a student. and then as an articling student, I did several trials on my own, right? So that really prepares you wherever you want to do whatever you want to do later, litigation, solicitor type of work. Clinic work prepares you for that, because if before I had that experience with managing files, client management, always closely working with a lawyer, here you are working under someone's supervision, but you're a lot more on your own as well, and you got to really get the feel of what the practice of law is about. And as an articling student, I didn't just do criminal law matters. I was the only articling student at the clinic, and we had 3 lawyers at a time at the time at the clinic, and I did work with all of them. And so I did represent clients in landlord tenant board. I did immigration files as the clinic at the time took immigration cases, and then eventually I ended up my first year after being called to the bar, which was in June 2018, was joining the clinic as a review counsel. So I did I did really enjoy that environment. I ended up working with great students at Western and supervising them on files. And I did criminal defense files and immigration files. So immigration was still the theme in the background, although I still thought I'll be this, criminal defense lawyer and do homicide cases and stuff like that. So, and then for that homicide case, I ended up doing with my mentor, I ended up doing the 4-week jury trial in Superior Court. So I got to use my robes right away, and it was just so exciting. Like the timing really worked out for me, and it was really hard to work on that case and also do clinic work. But that's, I really enjoy practice of law, so I just buckled up and and really just powered through those times. I stayed at the clinic for about a year and a half. And I knew that position, when it's it's government funding, and government funding tends to run out sometimes. And eventually that's what happened. And by that time, I only been a lawyer for a year and a little bit. And thinking about what I want to do further in my life, I kind of realized that maybe I don't love litigation as much. And mostly for the lifestyle of it. You get to really see once you start working in litigation, or even you will see it if you're summaring at a firm, that those lawyers who do litigation work, you always in hands of the court and other parties with respect to your scheduling, right? So you're very dependent on what court dictates to you in terms of timing, on what opposing parties dictating to you with respect to the timing. It is tough. Litigation is very tough work. And I felt at that point although I was a brand new lawyer, I already got the feel of what it is like, as I spent already several years of sitting in court, not just observing, but sitting in court assisting on very complex matters, and writing charter applications, and just incredible experience. So I decided for myself that I'm going to change my future, in the sense of, I decided I don't really want to practice criminal defense. And I had several job offers at that point all in criminal defense, obviously, because I built those ties with the community in London and the defense lawyers here. And I realized I want to do something different, just different. I didn't know what. So I gambled. I just rejected all my job offers without having anything, which was really a gamble at that point. I was still finishing my contract at the clinic, and I had about a month left before I was about to be done there. And then just word of mouth, I guess, brought me to Siskins. I never formally applied. It was just a situation where my firm now they saw an opportunity that there is an opportunity to have an immigration lawyer at the firm. And they did have immigration law department for 12 years, about 5 years before I joined the firm. And that lawyer ended up going and practicing on his own. But it became obvious that there is a need in London for more immigration lawyers. And that it is a good business opportunity. It's a good opportunity to serve the community as well. And just even before my contract that ended at the university, I stepped into the walls of Siskins, and essentially I never left since then. And I can tell you I'm very happy with where I am in life right now. Um, my practice is quite interesting in the sense that I don't do any litigation. I just decided for myself this is not something I want to pursue right now in life. I still have my robes just in case, but not right now. And so I don't do any refugee cases or any tribunal work at all. So I don't do any hearings. I don't do any appeals that would lead me to a hearing. I don't take on any refugee work. So we serve both individual clients and business clients. And definitely since I started here in October 2019, our business immigration practice grew significantly, but we still serve many individuals. So I do everything else besides refugee work, essentially, and appeal work. So such cases as spousal sponsorships, citizenship applications, work permit applications, um, work permit transfers, permanent residence applications, provincial, federal level. That's what we do. Um, our immigration law group is still a single lawyer group. So I'm the only immigration lawyer at the firm. And I have a great consultant who has been in the field of immigration for over 20 years now, and having a member of the team who is that experienced helps tremendously. And the volume of work that two of us do is comparable to a significantly larger department, I would say. So yeah, so now I've been here since October 2019. We're definitely a growing department. And it's been a lot of interesting cases over this few years, and definitely practicing immigration law during pandemic was extremely challenging, right? So it's all the knowledge I've gained from my first legal job, all the knowledge I gained through working at university, my personal experience, I had to build on it. And um, and why I mentioned the client management is so important. You can imagine that specifically in immigration, where families are torn apart, cannot see each other, or there are issues with the workforce where you cannot transfer employees for one reason or another. It's very stressful situation. It could be a very stressful situation, and managing these clients, assisting the clients, and getting them the results they need, but also that support and understanding. And my understanding always comes from my personal experience, right? I know how stressful it is
Yeah.
to know that there may be issues with your immigration status in the future. It's that is all very challenging, right? Um, and we did, in my opinion, really tremendous work during pandemic, assisting our clients and getting many individuals permanent residents, reuniting individuals in Canada, and just assisting with everyone's needs. It's pretty interesting that my criminal defense background kind of created a niche for me too. So I often write opinion letters on potential immigration consequences due to criminal convictions or non-convictions. And I could tell you that a lot of my referrals come from still local criminal defense lawyers. And that work, even other immigration lawyers retain us to do that type of work, because it's not all, every immigration lawyer has that background and understanding the charges, court disposition, sentencing. So I just got retained this week to do a response to what it's called the fairness letter, where someone is told by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada that we determined that you may not be admissible to Canada on criminal grounds. Now you have to present arguments why you may be admissible. So I'm writing this response for another immigration lawyer and their client, because I have that expertise, right? But that is very incredible that I'm able to utilize that knowledge, and I still get my criminal defense fix in a way by doing that work. What we also have done in the past 2.5 years, we partnered with a lawyer in Michigan, licensed US lawyer. So we do some US matters with that lawyer's firm as well. A lot of work permits, some permanent residence, green card applications, and also US waiver applications. So this is again where my criminal defense knowledge comes into play. Someone, a Canadian citizen, was or a resident, they were denied entry to Canada, entry into the United States from Canada because of previous court matters, criminal charges, and we get to submit what is called US waiver applications, asking the US government permitting our client to travel to Canada, to the US as a visitor, right? Or to apply for future work permits. So it's been interesting that all my knowledge gained over the years is I'm applying all of that. It's a great thing in my opinion, because I really got to learn from several lawyers, learn at the clinic, and now the way I practice, I got to utilize the skills that I got.
Yeah, I mean, your answers, you gave such in-depth explanation of your entire journey into your legal field. Sorry, is my sound working?
Yeah, it's working. Yeah, thank you, Shanika. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been a journey, right? Because I think the conventional way is a bit shorter than mine, right? But I think I'm a better lawyer now for the experiences that I've got. Because even before going to law school, I had a solid of understanding of what a practice of law is about, right? And I think one thing that I learned even supervising law students at the clinic, for example, is that not everyone prepared, right, for the practical component of it, right? Some students are really great at taking exams, and they excel taking exams and even law school exams, But when it comes to practice of law itself, there are there are those who are struggling, right? And I think it comes from mostly not realizing what it entails. It's obviously, we all as teenagers watch legal shows and movies, and right, and I think that the for me, like, that was also the attractive component about practice of criminal law. I just thought always, oh my god, like, it's just so dramatic, right? It's um and I really, it's dramatic as a fun in some ways, but it's very mentally challenging in other ways, right? And working on cases where you see a complainant in court, or a victim, right? Um, it can be very challenging mentally, right? And it's not just criminal defense, whatever you do. In my practice, it's a lot of stress of meeting deadlines, right? Just managing, over 100 matters at the same time, that is stressful, right? So you learn once you're out of school, you finally learn that taking exams and stressing out about getting good grades, that's a different type of stress when you have someone's life and future in your hands as their legal representative, and then the individuals are literally there preying on you, right? Just and you are their last hope, in my case, to stay in Canada or to come to Canada, right? So that's very that's very difficult to grasp at first as a student, but once you start practicing, you realize that really fast too. And I think it's also important to know and to learn what you don't like in terms of the field of law that you don't want to practice. Um, just going through school and even before that, I didn't, I didn't think I would enjoy any civil law, or I knew I'm not going to be a real estate lawyer. I knew I'm not going to be um, practicing wills and estates, right? Although at the clinic I got to do some wills work, and then I really knew I don't want to do that, right? So it's important to learn. Maybe you're not going to know what you will want to practice at the get-go, but if you learn what you don't like, it's already a positive factor. I think we have a question from Jawaz. I don't know if you can unmute.
Hi, Elena. How are you today?
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Sorry, I just figured I'd ask you a couple of questions. I came in
Sure.
a few minutes late, but
No
I just wanted
problem.
to first of all know that you're an immigration lawyer. I can understand that from what you have said.
Yes.
Did you take that role because of any person, personal motives, as in personal experiences you've had, perhaps as an immigrant yourself to Canada and relating to that aspect? Or was it just something you were interested in and you wanted to do?
So, Joas, that's what exactly that. So I'm born and raised in Moscow, Russia, and I came to Canada on exchange, first time in 2006, and then on exchange the following year. And then once I finished law school back in Moscow, I got into master's in history at Western. So I got to deal with, what it is like to be an international student, and finding out the rules of how many hours I can work a week, so on and so forth, how to apply for a work permit further, how to obtain residency, right? That all came from personal experience. And then after my master's, I went and did immigration consulting program. So I had a friend at the time who was an immigration lawyer and who pointed me in the right direction there, just stating this is a shorter way to practice of law than law school. So maybe try this first, and maybe you will like being a consultant or eventually end up working for the government. So I kind of, the immigration path came from there. And then again, I worked with immigration lawyer for several years after, and then I worked with several criminal defense lawyers, but also did some immigration through law offices and in law school too. Still kept my knowledge of regulations, of personal interest, kept reviewing the immigration updates and learning more about the immigration law field. So
Okay,
definitely came
sounds
from
good. So definitely some personal experience. I mean, personal motivations there for immigration, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Well, that's awesome. Another question. Sorry to interrupt, Shaneka. I'm not sure how many more you have, but what's your typical work day like from start to finish? I've always wondered what a lawyer does as soon as they go into their office and before they leave.
Um, that's such a good question. So Jawaz, I just came back from Muskoka, where I was for a week. And while in Muskoka, it was a workation. It wasn't a vacation. It was a workation. So I can tell you, yesterday I was looking at a waterfall in one of the lakes and taking calls from potential clients at the same time. And the same day I went kayaking, and then I responded to 110 emails. So
Wow.
I've just learned to structure my life around my work. And I think I'm very blessed in the sense that I really enjoy what I do. So in my in my day, I don't really, I don't get up and I think, oh, I gotta go to the office, right?
Hmm.
I actually really love, like, that's kind of part of my routine is to practice law at Siskins LLP. And I think one thing is that when you're in the right environment, like in my firm, I feel like I'm in the right environment where I have great mentor, I have great support, I have a great team, and really, we accomplish a lot within a week. Like every day, almost every day we moving, we touching at least 40 to 60 matters in one day, right? So that's a lot. And even if I'm somewhere, I don't just disconnect. I don't
Hmm.
just not look at my phone. I don't. And part of it's the circumstances. I'm the only immigration lawyer at the
Right.
firm. And I think that could be different if once my team grows and the department grows, when there are other immigration lawyers, when I can actually take a 1 week vacation without looking at my phone. I'm sure that time eventually will come, but I really don't for me it's not really very stressful to do that
Okay.
while I'm living my life. Like, I don't look at work as a burden, to be honest. Obviously certain things are stressful. One thing that I'm a fourth year call, right? I'm still pretty new lawyer in my opinion,
Okay.
but I am very assertive, and I think I'm pretty good at what I do. So
Right.
I think with clients, really, let's say client management can get stressful sometimes, because again, in immigration too, lots of stress.
Hmm.
Clients want sometimes things done immediately. We deal with many corporate clients who are amazing to deal with, but you ask them for documentation, they provide you that the same day. You
Hmm.
got to review it the same day as well, right? And it just, I thinking, when you in the environment where you actually enjoy practicing law, things come easier than before. I can tell you that I haven't, obviously was pandemic, I haven't got on any trips in a really long time. But in this past months, I went twice to Chicago and once to Muskoka and another time to my friend's cottage, all in 1 month,
Hmm.
which seems like a lot. But I was taking my work with me everywhere, and even waking up in Chicago with my friends. I was waking up at 5 a.m. and doing work till like 9, and then going out and about. And so that's part of why I realized I don't want to do litigation, is because I want to have a lifestyle
Yeah.
where I can do those things,
Well,
right?
I mean, if you have a dream job like you do right now, from the sounds of it, why would you want to do
Ab-
litigation, right?
Absolutely. And eventually, who knows, maybe. And
Hmm.
but right now, it's we get to accomplish a lot of things from the comfort of wherever I am, from my laptop. And and that's just I think during pandemic too, we all realized that life can be a little bit different, right?
Right.
And looking at, yeah, I still keep in touch with all my criminal defense friends, and just the changes that the adaptability that the courts got to through pandemic. I think most of those changes have to stay.
Yes. Like the
I just
virtual one, right?
remember,
You mean?
I, that's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember hours of hours of my time spent in the adjournment court, right, for criminal defense clients.
Hmm.
Just hours, right? And you just sit there and you just kind of thinking, oh my God, I still have to do so much work once I'm out of here.
Right.
And I'm spending my whole day just waiting on a few matters here.
Hmm.
And now at least that's it's Zoom came into play in our court system, and definitely our everyone is benefiting from it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I'll just say a little bit more on that. I mean, I don't think we have anything like pre-law shadowers, and I'm all the way in Saskatchewan, and I heard about it from another
Wow.
person online. I haven't even met him through Zoom. So yeah, it has definitely changed every aspect of our lives, personal, professional. So
Absolutely, and I think also an important point here too is when I went to before I went to law school, right? I there was no such organization that
yes.
I've known about, right? And I was lucky enough to meet people in my life who became mentors through my career and who gave
Yep.
me advice. But just an opportunity to get together like that with you guys and give you some input on what practice of law is about for me
Yeah. It's
personally
funny
is a great.
because you always hear about how lawyers don't have time and they always bill you for everything, and then you find something like this, this organization like Pre-Law Shadow, that they almost have virtual shadowing session twice a week, and I can't make one of those because I'm stuck at work at a job that I don't want to be at, so I'll take it for free for sure whenever it's available.
Absolutely, absolutely. And again, it's a way to build connections in your field, which is absolutely crucial, right? um
Do you have
and
LinkedIn on that note? Do you have LinkedIn I can reach you at?
I actually do not have LinkedIn. You wouldn't
Okay,
believe it. I probably will one day, but
fair
I
enough.
really don't. I'm just so busy with my
Of course.
just just you meet people and you just make connections and stuff like that. But certainly you can Google me and reach out by email, and I'll be happy to get on the phone sometime if you need advice or
Of
anything.
course. Thank you.
But I think for me too is like, let's say I mentioned I was volunteering with a refugee settlement organization before I went to law school. I'm now a vice chair of that organization. So I went to going, barely speaking English, going there to learn how to write a resume to
Yeah,
being a vice chair of that organization. And it's all about building ties in the community, working hard,
that's
right?
true. Yeah,
Um, Finding right connections and just doing good work, right? So wherever you are, it's get the opportunity to get in touch with different organizations, and just kind of also, like, I'm volunteering because I like it, right? Like, I'm not volunteering because I feel like I have to.
right.
I'm doing it because and for things that are important, you find time, right? Simple as
Yeah,
that. So it's I work a lot, uh, and sometimes around the clock. Um and certain calls are, we serve individuals all over the world, so some schedules, there's still some, I'm talking about time flexibility, but there's
hmm,
obviously some scheduling that has to be done. But I'm at least in charge of that scheduling myself, right? And
right.
That's the beauty of it, that eventually you can get somewhere in your career where you can do that. And I feel so grateful, and I'm really feel grateful to my firm that provides me the amazing environment that I'm in, right? And
Hmm.
I think from the first, moment of stepping into our, now we're in another building, but we were in a different building before. But I just remember just, meeting partners, and meeting other lawyers, and and staff members, and just thinking like, I really like people here, right? Like, I like the environment, I like people,
Hmm.
I like the level of independence I have, I like the level of supervision that I have. I have an amazing mentor that I can, reach out any day and be transparent with and ask advice. And she's always pointing me to the right direction. And that's really what you need when you're starting up as a lawyer. And but not only when you're starting up, but when you're continuing your practice.
Hmm. Yeah, having good mentor is a game changer for sure. I agree with you on that. That's an encouraging
Absolutely.
story. Encouraging story. I'm definitely a few years away from that myself, having a dream job with all the perks and stuff that you have. I
Yeah.
probably couldn't work and vacation at the same time. That's not me, my personality. But no, it's good to hear your experience, what it's like. And like you said, if you're enjoying something, you don't really think of it as work.
And it
That's the
takes, I
goal.
mean, the level of freedom also takes, a level of discipline, right? And I
Yes, of
think,
course.
again, I was in criminal defense before, and working with criminal defense lawyers. I got into a habit of getting up early, doing work before the court starts, and then doing more work. So like today, I was traveling from Muskoka. I got up at 4 a.m. and I did
Hmm.
work before I got on the road, right? So you got to, with that flexibility comes the level of self-supervision, right?
Yes,
That
of course.
it's not just, going on vacation and checking a few emails. Like, you actually need to structure your days in the way that you can accomplish the work, meaningfully accomplish the work on files, right? But you'll get there. As I said, I went to law school back home in Russia. I was 17 years old, right? And when I finished law school in Canada, and I got called to the bar, I was 32, right?
Right.
So it was a very long path for me, but now it just feels way more deserved to be where I am.
So just to clarify, you got your JD from Moscow in Russia, and then you had to work here to get JD in Canada, or you went to school here to get the JD again?
So I went to law school in Russia, and I didn't just a law program. I did the equivalency of a law school and a master's. So I became a specialist in international law in Russia. And then I did master's in history at Western, and then immigration consulting at Humber. And then I went to law school from zero,
Oh
step
my God.
step zero
Wow.
in Ottawa and Western. Uh,
Wow.
so it was a really, really long time for me before I became
Okay,
a
okay.
lawyer here. But that's why all my friends, even before I went to law school, they were saying, "You are a
Yeah.
lawyer. You need to
I
go get that law license."
I look forward to when your book comes out.
Thank you. Thank you. Eliza, you have a question?
Yes, I do. First of all, it's a pleasure listening to you talk about your experiences. I'm an immigrant myself, actually. I was born in Lebanon, and because of war, my parents sacrificed so much to come to Canada. So I can entirely understand and empathize with the struggles, the motivation you had to come here and start fresh. So I actually have a question for you because I want to become an immigration lawyer myself. If you could
Great.
give just one piece of advice to any student who wants to become one, what would you give? I know there's lots of things you could say, but if there was one extremely important point.
And thank you for sharing your personal experience, Eliza. Thank you for that. And the question is obviously a really great question. Yeah, it's hard to choose just one advice, right? But I just think it's going into immigration law, making sure you enjoy dealing with people, right? Like, just, it's a field where there is a lot of personal contact. I can tell you, I do all my intakes myself. I do all the, and while today, even in the yesterday and today, I got, I don't know, probably around 18 calls I need to return. But I am the one picking up that phone and calling potential client at the outset, because I want them to meet me first, because I know they're about, if they're retaining me, they're about to trust me with essentially their well-being in their life. So make sure that you like dealing with people and you don't find that absolutely exhausting, right? Because again, it's, we all have different personalities, and when you're choosing an area of law to practice, um, it comes into play. For me, like doing criminal defense work, I realized that litigation is exciting, right? Again, some moments that they show you in the movies are true. You never know what comes out of the witness mouth, or what happens in the trial. It's so exciting. um, when the jury comes out and giving you the verdict on a homicide case that you worked on for years, that is the most adrenaline I ever experienced in my life, right? But I knew then I'm a better writer than a litigator, and that I love and very much enjoy writing. And in immigration law, I get to argue on paper, right, for the type of cases I take on. So know your strengths, and know what you like, right? And choose accordingly. I think for me, it was important to just realize too throughout my journey, consider opportunities that present themselves, but also choose wisely for yourself, right? Don't take every opportunity, but absolutely consider it, right? And then you listen to yourself, right? Anyone can give you advice, and it's, we talked about, it's very important to have mentors, but you also need to know what you like. I can tell you, most of my friends from law school are in the environment that they very much enjoy, and that's great to see. But there are a few who hate where they are, right? And they just, they hate what the type of law they practice, and maybe sometimes they don't like the environment, right? So, but most of them, is good to hear that if they're not happy, they look at other opportunities, right? And that's it, everything is a learning experience. It really is throughout your it will be throughout your journey to the starting your law career, and when you, after you're called, um, your first few years of practice, it's really everything is a learning experience. You just learn so much throughout everything, but also learn a lot about yourself too, and choose accordingly. So that's kind of, it was more than one advice within one answer, but that's my input on that.
It was perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and good luck. It's such a it's such an important field, immigration law, in my opinion. And surprisingly, up till this past year, there was no immigration law association in Canada. So I'm one of the co-founding members of that association. And just having your colleagues who are, having, some of them are way more experienced than I am, just to be able to exchange ideas, to ask a question, it's very crucial, right? Just having that support, and it's really great to be able to do that now. But before that, it was really a struggle. I think in immigration law too, the regulations changes so quickly. I mean, even through pandemic, I couldn't keep up with, what they want for travel authorizations, right? In terms of vaccine requirements, and I had to become a specialist on the Quarantine Act, and all of that. In addition to doing the actual file work, you have to take all of that in consideration, right? So you just have to review enormous amount of information, And there are fields of law that they do not move that quickly, right? In
And
terms of the
additionally,
pace.
with also those immigrants that have religious exemptions with the vaccinations,
Sure,
all of those factors come into play and so
sure.
quickly. Yeah.
No, absolutely. And I can tell you right, like interestingly too, it's you learn to use the law, right? And again, that's came, I think, with practice criminal law, right? Like, let's say working with charter cases, you use what is available to you by law, right? You work in the frame of the law. Same in immigration with the regulations, even Quarantine Act. Don't just look at obvious stuff. You learn to look at all provisions that may be of assistance, and you learn how to use that, right? So I think wherever you end up, whatever you end up doing in terms of your area of practice, learn to be creative as well, right? And I think that comes with experience, obviously. Do not, without supervision, don't do it. Don't do it at the outset, but with experience you learn to do that. And for our clients, definitely, we tend to look at all potential solutions, right? You start from a very broad point, and then you're narrowing the path down, right? And but yeah, I think in terms of practice of immigration law, still in Canada, very underserved. I tend to also meet clients who had um, or potential clients who had very bad experience with previous legal representatives, whether lawyers or consultants, and building that trust after, let's say, their case was refused 3 times with other legal representatives becomes very difficult, right? So you learn to have open conversations, honest conversations with clients, setting boundaries and clarifying expectations very early in that field, right? Um, so that's kind of prepares you for a lot in the future, wherever you end up. And again, for me, I didn't initially saw myself working in a larger firm, right? I just always thought, I always worked with sole practitioners before, and that's the environment that became familiar. uh, but what I said about taking opportunities, right? It's presented itself, and I'm the happiest I ever been, right? In my practice. So it's really great just to realize that, again, if you don't if at some point you don't like something, either the area of law or the environment, take steps to change it, right? Don't just and sometimes it's in the initial stages. You might stay just to learn, to get the experience, to build your resume. That's all understandable. But I think it's just really in life, we got to take steps to what we want, right? And I think that's, we all, the personality specific for those who go to law school. I mean, we all have something in common in that internal drive, as we go into profession, to help other people in way or another, whether you go into corporate field or sole practitioner type of work, right? I mean, I have friends who've been criminal defense lawyers for over 20 years, and they don't even like having admin stuff. And I really don't understand how you can, after a day of court, come to the office and then start doing your billings by yourself. And but they do, and that's their routine, and they prefer that, right? So but I do not want to do that. No, it's not for me. So it's I like having support, and I know I'm best at research and writing legal opinions, actually doing file work, doing intakes. So I'm utilizing my strength at this point, and so having a solid team definitely is crucial. But again, it's for some individuals, you just learn to do things as you prefer them to, right? And it's quite impressive too. So
Thank
do
you.
you guys have any questions?
Yeah, if you
Thank
guys
you.
need
Go
more
ahead.
questions, sorry, I'm so
No, that's okay. Go ahead, please.
No, if you guys have any more questions, like feel free, like clearly, like you guys are very comfortable talking to Elena. Like you've given us such insight into your very out there, like very non-conventional way to where you are right now. And clearly you're a very successful like immigration lawyer. Like it's nice to see what you do for your community, how you're now the VP for the organization that you mentioned, the refugee organization. It's just nice to see that, you know, you came all the way 17 years old and here you are now. Right. So thank you for
Thank
giving
you.
us such an in-depth like explanation and like giving us really like hardcore advice about just how to navigate the legal field and have a career in the legal field.
Thank you, Shanika. And anyone who watches the session, really, if you have a question or a personal situation you want to discuss in terms of your career choice, you can reach out, right? And I say not just about myself, but generally, I found that in our field, it's not that difficult to find a good mentor, in a sense of, if you are actually, and we're obviously like lawyers are, we are busy, right? We just have to prioritize our time. But I think most of lawyers you would reach out to and you ask, even for me, it's, it was not that hard even in immigration law to find mentors within the field, by just reaching out and saying, hi, like I saw your profile, and this is my situation, and and that's, I want to can I take 10 minutes of your time on the phone, or may I ask you your advice. It's pretty incredible, that that's people in our profession will time to listen and give advice, and that's definitely pursue the mentorship as much as you can, and find good mentors. For me, it was really, amazing experiences, again, in my journey to in criminal law defense. One of, I would say, individuals I always wanted to meet was Marie Hinnon, right? The defense lawyer at Hin Hutchinson, and uh, I was at Criminal Law Association conference lunch, and I realized that we are sitting back to back with her. And it was, you kind of got a little bit starstruck about the person you listen to on TV and all of that. And obviously during the Jian Ghomeshi trial, there was a lot of exposure into her career. And I just turned around, as confidently as I could. And I said, Miss Hinnon, can I take a few minutes of your time? I would really want to tell you that I admire you, and so on and so forth. And I asked her a couple of questions, and that experience really stuck with me. Just just having that again opportunity and ability to do that, right? Um, and I got to meet former Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, Beverly McLaughlin, and it just those kind of experiences you take with you through your law career too, right? It's just so nice to be able to, in the cases you read, and the textbooks you read, to know more, right, and learn more and experience more. So again, take opportunities, right, and don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Thank you so much.
Yes,
You're very
again,
welcome.
thank you so much, Elena, on behalf of Pre-Law Shatterers and all the students that have joined us today and are probably going to be watching this session on YouTube. Like, we're all very thankful for you to take the time of your very busy schedule. Like you said, you woke up at 4 a.m. and here you are talking to us. Like, we really appreciate you making the time and effort to come here and give us very insightful advice that I know many of us are thankful to hear. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Shanika. Good luck to everyone and looking forward to hear from you guys again.
Okay, have a good day, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Bye.